Over 70% of the Earth's surface is covered by water. The Pacific Ocean accounts for almost half of that. Here, creatures are often on the move in their quest for life's non-negotiable necessities. Food, mates, or refuge from enemies. Migrations are just as much part of life in this realm as on the land. Arguably, the most remarkable is the daily up and down movement of zooplankton, some of the ocean's smallest and most diverse creatures. Most zooplankton feed on tiny plant-like cells and algae that grow in the sunlit upper layers of the ocean. But foraging in broad daylight is risky. Just about everything out here eats zooplankton, or eats something that does. So most zooplankton wait until dark before leaving the relative safety of deeper, darker waters. Their daily journey up and back is the greatest movement of life on the planet. Billions of individuals join the commute, some traveling the human equivalent of more than 250 miles. Given how central zooplankton are in the entire ocean food web, it's no surprise that marine biologists such as Bill Peterson find them irresistible. Tonight, Peterson and his team are after one of the larger zooplankton, krill, which scientists call euphausids.
They're interesting animals. They form schools, and they have eyes. They can see what's going on around them, and you gotta be crafty to catch these darn things.
All right, we're ready to take down top safety line at the foot.
To avoid our plankton nets in the daytime. So we have to sample at night. Oh boy. And we actually use nets that are dyed black so they can't see the nets coming at them. Okay, you ready? Deep breath. Okay, here we go. All right.
Getting these little creatures out of the nets and into collection buckets is a soggy business.
These are mostly juvenile euphausids. These are probably born about maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And then the larger ones are probably maybe actually a year old by now.
In the 80s and early 90s, Peterson watched with dismay as the euphausid population off America's west coast plummeted. Plankton
levels were down to like 20% of what they were back in the 1950s. There's nothing in the water almost. So people were getting really concerned.
Some researchers, worried that this entire food web would unravel, started urgent speculation about causes.
And one of the ideas that we had in the early 90s was that maybe this was the harbinger of global warming. And so we were all operating on the assumption that we were seeing it.
But then in the late 90s, things abruptly turned around.
It was like, holy cow, there's my friends again, they're all back. So I was pretty excited about that.
Now both a crash and a recovery needed explanation. Global warming was still in force, so it couldn't be the cause. What was? Scientists now believe the rise and fall of zooplankton numbers is tied to sudden rearrangements of huge regions of warm and cold water. Every 2 or 3 decades, the Pacific does a flip-flop, which scientists call a regime shift. When the waters off Oregon are cold, zooplankton there do well. When the waters are warmer, their numbers fall. And why do these regime shifts have such a great impact on zooplankton? Because they can disrupt the food supply, the currents that draw nutrient-rich water up from the depths. When the warm water layer at the ocean's surface gets thicker, this flow of deep nutrients is cut off. That's what was happening through the 80s and early 90s. These temperature shifts in the Pacific have been going on unnoted for a long time, but now they're taking place in the context of rising global temperature. That puts a new spin on everything.
This cool cycle will end, and it'll go into a warm cycle. But it won't be like the warm cycle that we had the last time, because we do have this global warming thing going on all the time.
Some researchers worry that rising temperature on top of a regime shift could drive zooplankton numbers below some threshold or tipping point, so that their populations would be unable to recover. If this comes to pass, marine biologists may have trouble finding anything living in these waters.